Bienvenidos, Ushamdi, and welcome Anne Arundel Community College learners from the Spring 2023 semester taking the CTS-233 Section 400 Network Programmability course. This is the Cisco Networking Academy's DEVASC 200-901 Certification Exam Preparation course, and in this activity, we're going to be taking a look at the first packet tracer from the course, which is Packet Tracer 5.4.6. where we're going to explore a simple network. Now, what you're going to learn in this video is how you could actually use a web server in Packet Tracer, how we can create an index.html file. You could even create some other files there for the web server, but we're going to focus on the index.html. We're going to manipulate an ASA 5505 firewall along with the firewall rules, and then check on some basic connectivity to understand what's going on. Now, don't sleep on this activity. There's some really good stuff in here. So let's go ahead and dive in. Now, the first thing they want us to do, we have the address table over here along with your background and your scenario. We're going to add some PCs to the topology. So to do that, I come down here to where it says in devices and I click, and you can see now we get PCs. So we're going to put one PC over here, and we're going to put another PC right down over here. Now we're going to connect these PCs up with a straight through copper cable, which is, if you mouse over, you can see that the names change for each type of cable. So that's our copper straight through. And we're just going to go from fast Ethernet 0 to fast Ethernet 01. And then we're going to do the exact same thing here with this PC, fast Ethernet 0 to fast Ethernet 01. Again, the port that you plug into is not important, or not as important as getting these details right. So here is where learners run into some issues sometimes. Remember, PCA, we're going to put that as close as we can to switch number 2. So if I was to come in here to the configuration, we're going to change the name here to PC-A. And remember, the name needs to be exact. You can see in the lower right-hand corner, we have the completion percentage down here. So keep your eyes on that, as our configuration tasks will increase that completion percentage. So we're going to go ahead and go to settings, and the default gateway is going to be 192.168.1.1. And let's go to the fast Ethernet interface, where we're going to put an address on here of 192.168.1.2. And we've got the subnet mask as 255.255.255.0/24. And you can see the completion percentage has already jumped to 50% for us. All right, well, let's come over to the desktop. I'm going to pull the command prompt up real quick. And so from the PC, let's just do a quick check. Can I ping my default gateway? Always critical, being able to ping that default gateway. And everything looks good. All right, let's take a look at PCB, which is going to be attached to switch number 3. Come into the config section, we change the name to PC-B, and then we take a look at our settings. We set the default gateway to 172.16.3.1, and the fast Ethernet interface is going to be 172.16.3.2. And if I hit the tab key, you can see it's going to put in the default subnet mask for a class B. However, that is not going to be correct. And if you were to leave it like that, you'll notice we were missing out on 17 percentage points down here when that subnet mask was incorrect. So now we're at 100%. But again, the activity completion percentage shows 100. However, there's a lot more to be done here. So what is it we need to do? Well, first things first, let's go ahead and ping our default gateway. Make sure we have connectivity out to the 172.16.3.1. And we do. So let's scroll on down here, and you can see attempt to ping router 3. But now from PCB, we've got some other activities they want us to do. So can I ping the 209.165.200.227? Right? And we're going to ping that address. We're also going to ping another address. Now, this may take a second here as the network is converging. In fact, I believe last semester when I did this, you actually had to do 2 rounds of ping before it actually worked. So let's see what's going to happen here. And while that's running, why don't we come over to PCA and ping 64.100.0.10. So we'll ping from PCA to see if we can ping the sample PT web server here, 64.100.0.10. We'll let that run. We'll come back and check over here. And you'll notice it didn't work the first go around here with our pings. However, the second go around, we should have some success here. Again, we're going to wait for the network to initially converge. So a lot of learners will see the first round of pings and think, oh, it's broke. I didn't do something right. When in fact, it's just that Packet Tracer, we're kind of waiting for things to happen here. And there we go. And as you can see, the pings actually work now. PCA, what happened over here? Didn't work the first time, works the second time. All right, so from PCB, they want us to ping that 64.100.0.10. And so we'll give it a go from PCB. And while that's doing its thing here, because we know it's going to take a second or two, and there we go. It worked. All right, so we're able to ping, and part 2 is done. And again, we had to do it from PCB. I just did it from PCA to hopefully speed the ping request from PCB. So we've got connectivity around the network here. In fact, we've got connectivity from our inside VLAN on the 5505 ASA firewall out to the server PT, the DEVASC Netacad PKA, and this is our external web server out here, right? Behind our firewall. You can think of it as it's in our DMZ. All right, so what are we going to do on that web server out there? So it says right here, we're going to create an index.html file. Well, how do we do that? Super straightforward and easy. We're just going to go to the Services tab, and you can see here, HTTP is on, HTTPS is on, and we've got this File Manager area down here where we're going to click New File. The name is going to be index.html. Now, I found it interesting that they give you this snippet of code. Now, that works. However, that is severely broken HTML. We don't have a closing HTML tag. There's, excuse me, there's no body tag. And so I went ahead and just converted that to the HTML file that you would probably want to have. And again, I threw some new stuff in here. Excuse me. And so this is how we're going to organize this HTML file. Now, again, these 4 lines of code, that's going to work. But that is kind of odd that it's missing some of the tags. So we're going to pull it in here, drop these tags in. We're going to click on Save. And you'll notice if I click Save again, it's going to ask you if you want to overwrite the file. So I'll just go ahead and say yes. It's going to be the same file. Excuse me. I'm getting a sore throat here. All right, so now we're going to come to PCB. And we're going to pull up, we're going to close the CLI down. We're going to pull the web browser up here. And this is going to open up sort of a really lightweight web browser that we're going to use here in Packet Tracer. And we're going to go to that new web page that we just created. So 209.165.200.227. Is this going to take me to my new and improved DevNet Associate web page? And it does. And you can see the font is blue. There's my H1. Here's my H2. Text header sizes. And so everything works great. So now what we're going to do is we're going to dive into this ASA firewall. So let's pull this up and let's come over here, make it a little bit larger, and we're going to go to the CLI. Now there's no password on here. So when we go from user exec to privilege exec, you just hit the enter key or the carriage return key, and we get into privilege exec mode here on the firewall. So what are we going to do? Well, let's do a show run. And let's see what the ACL looks like on the firewall. Well, here it is right here. And you can see that we've got 2 rules in here. And what are these rules saying? Well, this is saying permit ICMP from anywhere to go to the host 192.168.2.3. Well, that would be this inside RFC 1918 private address on this DEVASC Netacad server PT web server. So we're allowing pings to come from anywhere to go to that web server. And then we're allowing or permitting TCP equal to www, right? So this is why HTTPS would not work. But we could take a look at that in a second. But we're permitting TCP connections from anywhere to that web server as long as the port equals 80. And that's my www line there. So what do they want us to do? Well, we're going to manipulate the firewall here, and we're going to tweak and hold on one second. Yeah, I think we've done everything we need to do. No password. Okay, yeah, and we're going to get rid of that ICMP rule. So we're going to get into global config, and we're going to say no access list outside-DMZ extended permit ICMP any host 192.168.2.3. So what we're doing here is we're basically just removing the ACL on the 5505 ASA firewall that is allowing the ping packets to come through. I hit enter, And now we should be able to immediately come over here to PCB. Let's dump the web browser, close that out, pull the CLI back up, and what happens when I try to ping now? Is it going to work? And you can see it's not going to work from PCB anymore. What if I came over to PCA? Now remember, we were talking about the outside to DMZ rule. This is going to be on the inside interface. So let's see, am I able to ping here? 209.165.200.227. And so we'll let the ping from PCA run for a little bit and see what happens. But you can clearly see over here on PCB where we were able to ping earlier, we are no longer able to ping. And if I come over to PCA, you can see we're also getting timeouts, but we're going to let it run a couple times here to see if it's, oh, the network is converging, or if in fact that we're not able to make this ping from the inside. Because you'll notice on the firewall, there was no inside to outside, right? There's the outside to DMZ, but there's no there's no inside to DMZ. There's an outside to DMZ, but there's no inside to DMZ rule set that we have here. So we've wiped out the ping. Okay, well, let's confirm that the web traffic still works. So let's close down this tab. Let's pull the web browser up. And again, it's a very simple web browser. And let's do our HTTP request. So here we go. So we're going to say HTTP, confirming that we can still get through to the 209.165.200.207. I'm sorry, 207. Forgot the IP there for a second. Or 227. So that is also not going to work because there is no 207. So 227, and there we go. We can see that it still works. What happens if I put an S in here for HTTPS? Because we're running HTTPS on that web server. So if I was to well, actually, let's just close this down here, pull it back up so it comes up fresh, because it's funny, it will leave the HTTP page up that we were previously looking at. But what happens if I say HTTPS 209.165.200.227? So we click go, and we're clicking go, go, go. Come on, give me the web page. Well, it won't, and that's because the firewall has no outside to DMZ rule. Oops, sorry, come up here. Has no outside to DMZ rule that's permitting 443. So what could we do there? Well, sure. Why can't we just go ahead and duplicate that rule? And so let's pull this back here. And actually, I probably should have just started typing fresh. So what can we do there? Well, let's say access list outside DMZ extended, and we're going to permit TCP from anywhere to the host 192.168.2.3 and equal to what? So if I do a question mark, you can see we've got www, telnet. So there is no HTTPS or WWS, right? So we've got to put in 443. So let's add that in there. Let's go ahead and say show run now, and let's take a look at our outside to DMZ firewall ACLs. And so we're now allowing 443, but let's check. Are we really allowing 443? You can see the request timed out initially, and now it works, right? So before, again, going outside the activity and messing around in Packet Tracer is a great thing to do, because we can take a look at that and say, oh, okay, cool. Well, I see how that would actually work. And that's it, right? So for this Packet Tracer activity, again, we're still at 100%. More importantly, we've got a better understanding as to how we can set up a web server, throw up an index.html page, how we can manipulate the ACLs that are on an ASA 5505 firewall, and that is going to do it for Packet Tracer Activity 5.4.6, Explore a Simple Network. Again, much of this should probably be review, because you've taken the 3 previous Cisco Netacad courses, but always good to take a look at things a second time. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're enjoying the course, and as always, I hope to see you in the next video.